Lorehammer Library!
The Celestial Dragon Emperor is the deifical, if you will allow me a strange turn of phrase, ruler of the Empire of Cathay, the largest and certainly the most populous by an order of magnitude human nation in the world. He rules over this vast landmass of many different peoples and cultures, and his subjects number untold millions. The Dragon Emperor is said to be immortal, but the names of several different emperors are known. Some believe that he is an actual dragon in the form of a man. He leads the Grand Cathay along with his wife, the Moon Empress, and their children, which drive the nation together, as a series of barons would in a lesser one. The known emperors are few and far between in the west. Emperor Zhen Huang ruled around -3000 IC. Under his reign, the neighboring ogre tribes, who had maintained peaceful relationships with Cathay, started to devour human children along the border. His coven of astromancers may have had a hand in the genocidal arrival of the Great Moor Comet that crashed into the ogre homelands and drove them westwards, as well as corrupting their psyche and lifestyle forever. An unnamed Dragon Emperor unified the land of Cathay into a single empire after this, around -2000 IC. He ordered the construction of the Great Bastion, a gigantic fortified wall, to protect his new empire against the marauding tribes of the Huang and Kurgan. This great task, the entire unification of the Greater Cathay region, or Grand Cathay, was undertaken in under a century. And this impenetrable fortress wall, a quarter of a mile high, from Nangao in the west to Weijin in the east, spanning league upon league across the border of Cathay, is known as the Dragon's Spine, as well as the Great Bastion and the Great Wall. It rises like a giant wave breaker against chaos incursions from the north. Less than 3 centuries after its construction, the World's Edge Mountains were riven by earthquakes, sending much of the dwarf empire into jeopardy and decline. Sections of the Great Bastion collapsed as well, allowing rampaging northern tribes and barbarians to spill into Cathay. During the year 1310, other series of earthquakes caused part of the Great Bastion to collapse. A truly colossal invasion ensured that scores of the battle-hungry Kurgan tribes that roamed the eastern steppes flooded into the rich and ancient empire of Cathay. Hordes of chaos warriors battled legions of terracotta automatons, attempting to shore up the Great Wall with their own clay bodies. Mutated war mammoths gorged and trampled whole regiments of one-eyed ogres, and in the skies above, demon princes duelled with bejeweled gold dragons. The Cathians ultimately blunted the invasion, but not before the Chaos Horde had carved a bloody path into the heartland of the Orient. The Tower of Asher is a Cathian outpost to the northeast of the Great Bastion that overlooks the Silk Road and the mountain passes coming down from the Mountains of Morn. From this jade-green tower of magical stone, the servants of the Dragon Emperor survey the great road and keep watch for signs and portents of woe, threats from distant lands. It is a true quirk of history that this unnamed Dragon Emperor remains unnamed, despite his foundational significance to the land of Cathay, and Grand Cathay especially. Only the Cathians know the true secrets of why he was not recorded in such manners, but it's likely that scholars of the West are not accessing a wealth of knowledge which is kept under lock and key, away from the eyes of barbarians. Regardless, Emperor Wu of the Wu dynasty was crowned later in 1676 IC. In 1690, the 14th year of his reign, he sent a large fleet to invade and conquer the Southlands in order to compete with Araby in the spice trade. The invasion ended in utter failure due to 2 great typhoons that dispersed and sunk the fleet. It was probably the same Emperor Wu who met Rico and Robio's large Chilean expedition in 1699. In the end, he hired its members to protect the western borders of his empire against the hobgoblin hordes. Emperor Zhang Jimmu, whose wives were saved from the executioner cult of the Jade Pearl by the questing knight Leofric Karad, is another westernly known emperor. He later travelled on to Ind, south of Cathay, and quested within the Caves of Fire, interfacing with ancient beings that dwell there. The last known recorded emperor in the West is Emperor Puji, who led Cathayan forces against Hablo Khan at the Battle of Zhen II, but was defeated when the great horde of Hobgoblin Khan arrived. It is unclear whether Puyi died in the battle or managed to escape back to Cathay, with little more than his poo and wee being smeared across the battlefield, rather than his blood and entrails. Very few emperors are known to the West, but perhaps this is something that will change in the very near future.